Wonderful. Well, we had a very lovely conversation on part one of episode one,
Yep.
and I think we've talked what, maybe two times since then, maybe.
Yeah.
And uh, I want to have some very good news to share that's going to end up in the question for you.
Okay.
So I deal with some sensitive stuff, and like you, I got NDAs. So I was thinking we might do something just a little different today.
Okay. Yep.
And I could lead into the math that your team has done a wonderful job with, and our collaboration has helped, I believe.
Yep.
You might can we use some movies? Let's see. Lord of the Rings would make sense for you. Yeah.
Yeah, one ring to rule them all. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that's part of some of your posts here today. I've been keeping up.
Yep.
Uh, uh, and then I'd like to use kind of a spy thriller type thing. So you mind if I use 007?
Look, License to Kill, definitely on.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, and then let's throw in the Goonies just for fun. Can we stick around there? And let me
Yep.
tell you my new line.
Yep.
So there's a friend we'll call Mr. Moore who is was facing just 2 weeks ago 6 months being in a place that he had no intent to want to be.
Yeah.
And this is happening right now. And he just found out tomorrow might be his last day, and he can go back to his kids and his wife and a lot of good stuff.
Fantastic.
And so Mr. Moore is a very happy man. And I know I've mentioned it to you, and I've been collaborating with, or I've been working with Black Hole, our members, and any way that we could have helped, I'm so happy because the smile just showed right. I didn't even he left me a voicemail. No movie, no pick,
Yeah.
and his smile came right through the phone.
Beautiful.
And we were getting into a topic that's a favorite between you and I called quantum tunneling. And
Yeah.
while we talked math on part one, can you help explain just how that might have happened?
I look at things through a lens of tunneling, right? So if we consider our biology not from the perspective of solid matter physics, but from a different perspective, one of isotope physics, through the mirrored symmetry, then we can understand the alignment of the electromagnetics within the geometry of hydrogen and how that relates to s orbital layers, how that relates to the proposal of, well, we have a system that can do a transmutation of a mineral coordinated to our neurotransmitters, and we've got a way in which our biology operates that provides us with the flow of information in a cohesive fashion that has a timing to it, an atomic timing. So the atomic clocks operating within, outside of the neurological conscious mind, really provide the tunneling system of hydrogen in our biology to give us a time reversal symmetry. So we have a beautiful quantum coherent light operating system underpinning the biology happening in life. And it's not seen from the outside, it's seen from the inside out. And we have a connection through that atomic singularity within the atom that inverts the external and the internal. So they are mirror symmetry opposites. And that gives
So,
it time.
so clarification, if I took the hip of this uh, hourglass
Yeah.
and bent it over itself, is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. So the two sides are identical, right? They have a stability because of the photon decay expansion is an inverse square law relationship. And that gives from, yeah.
A quick question. For example, as they're starting, in July of 23, CERN starts spinning up again.
Yep.
And on schedule anyway.
Mhm.
And once they start up, they reach a level of plateau and then reach a stability, in which case then they can control what happens.
Yep.
Is that kind of what?
Well, the universe operates, right? It operates in a very dynamic way, but our biology operates in a mirrored symmetry, and this side of the mind controls this side of the body, and vice versa. So within biology, and you have to kind of think about anything that we do which we believe to be external has to be filtered through the lens in order for the mind to understand it. So it has to filter through this sensory lens, which is fundamentally through hydrogen-based biology and a mirror symmetry at an atomic level. So that's kind of like a window in which our biology operates through. And anything you do in this kind of conceptual framework of the external physical still has to go through the sensory apparatus of the internal mirrored symmetry, time reversal symmetry.
And we have a lot of hydrogen, not only around
We
us, but
do.
in it.
Yep. Yep. In them, through them, with them. So that hydrogen is in the water. The hydrogen is within that dopamine, amine, NH3 plus, and it's a quantum system that operates housed in a Faraday cage. So single atom systems, they're very strange because they operate in a reversal time way. So when we understand the reverse negative time dilation time system that's operating.
Now you're talking stuff, Doc, that's gonna you sound so confident.
Well, I've experienced it for myself, right? So that's the problem. It's when you have a dream, but the dream isn't at night when you're sleeping, and the dream shows you not like an image in terms of a canvas painting on a wall, but you find yourself in a new time, and you come back to the present moment. That can't be explained by science in its solid matter physics state. We know time exists through this atomic timing system. And so there's a way of understanding how to apply that timing system to how the mind is operating to allow a delay. And that delay is needed for the conscious experience of reality.
So you're talking like the big supermassive black hole that's kind of aimed at us right now, all the way right down into a seed and perhaps the brainstem.
I go at the moment to understanding the single egg created being, and from
like cracked into one little egg.
the 1.6 millimeter Okay. Yeah. And from that, understand the expansionary process.
Yes.
And so the
As a matter of inflation.
yeah, and so inflation for me is also a negative time dilation, a faster than light process.
Have you seen POTUS lately? Oh my God. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So if you were to phrase that into um Lord of the Rings, or well, you're in Lord of the Rings country. Why don't we,
Okay.
in your honor, sir?
So I'd say I have hairy feet and I'm a hobbit. um, and I guess I like hanging out with Gandalf, and the White Wizard. So there are layers to the Lord of the Rings story.
Now the white and Gandalf the gray.
Yeah, yeah. He converts into Gandalf the White Wizard.
An evolution.
Yeah, a transformation that comes from the fall. Thou shalt not pass the barrier that was there. The barrier.
In the or are we talking Gandalf or
Yeah,
both?
yeah. We're talking the vision system operating within.
Yeah.
The visible and the barrier to the invisible that occurs within as well. So there is a parallel to sticking the staff in the bridge and stopping the demons from coming across, right? There's a very challenging scenario that comes from revealing the experience within. And that is
we're talking the horseman now, the dark horseman.
indeed. Yeah. And the light that comes, and to join light and dark, to see how to cross the bridge. It's not an easy journey and not one that can be taken lightly.
You never know where a bridge will pop up.
Indeed.
That's why much. It's I relate to the baseball inhaler kind of kid because I am what I am. But how a team can come together with a challenge. I always associate copper pot as Einstein. E equals MC, who talks about the space-time continuum, so we know it's there. And just, my research has said that Pascal's wager, right? It can't resolve because there's always even just a minute piece of data.
Yep.
That out. So, if you're saying what you're saying, how does the human mind process that? How does that happen?
I can only talk about the journey that I've had and the experience that I've had in order to then take 10 years of my life to integrate that experience.
Well, I'm going to. Oh, now, you mind sharing?
Yeah, like I can share a little bit of it.
You got the floor.
Thank you. The the science and the experience, how to reconcile the experience of consciousness, and I would say you have to kind of break through the concepts of time to do that in order to kind of see a sequential, logical process. That the experience of seeing something that nobody else saw put me into a room of an atomic light, And so I was no longer seeing the external physical world. I was seeing the electromagnetic world within the structure of an atom. And I was flying through the barrier of visible wavelengths and moving through into the first layer of the hydrogen atom, into the Lyman line, and then through the Lyman line and into the nucleus, and seeing a golden sphere of light, the atomic sphere within the atom. And which atom?
So I'm gonna just kind of like the Eagles flying Frodo out of the volcano.
In a way, yeah. Yeah, very much like you are suspended in a at a higher level of perception. So it's like you are above. But in my case, it was like walking through into a new room, and in front of me was, I didn't see the doorway that I entered. It was just there, and this golden sphere of light with two other smaller spheres on either side. And that really kind of changed, how does light occupy that geometry within the
So, so maybe
within,
more like Bilbo when they got to the smog mountain, the misty mountain, kind of
fell
disappeared
through
and
the
just
crack. Yeah, fell through
right.
into the various what is it, a bit of a it wasn't an orc stronghold, was it? It was the, yeah, it was almost like you think you put the ring on, right? And all of a sudden you're shifted away from being in the visible and nobody can see you anymore. So in a sense, that ring provided the opportunity of shifting from the second ring down to through the first ring and seeing the center of the atom. So my perception of reality changed from visible wavelengths of light into seeing something that you would say it's no longer visible. And it wasn't visible for anybody else. It was just visible for me for a very short period of time. And because of my scientific background, I wanted to figure out what that was, how that happened. What made sense next was to see the atomic decay process that resulted in not me being present where I was, but me being present at different places in my future. It was like a storybook, and in the movie, how they would make the movie to begin with, understanding the cast, understanding the kind of two-dimensional drawings that you would to frame up the different scenes. And this way, it wasn't framed in 2 dimensions; it was framed in a 3-dimensional different time settings. So it was like the movie had already been written; it had already been played, but it was playing backwards to show me the way forward. And you know, if you think about the time reversal symmetry in the atomic clock systems within the unconscious part of the mind, I got to witness the point where the conscious mind and the unconscious mind were aligned in order to witness the unconscious experience decay system to give me the stepping stones in 3-dimensional reality at a slower pace of the experience of what the future is going to hold for me. So in a way, it's kind of like a near-death experience, but it was related to the midlife point in my life, the half-life of me as a being on this planet, and that atomic decay that happened shifted my perception 180 from the external, which I had learned as a scientist, to an internal. And then I had to kind of shuffle my knowledge around in order for that to make some logical sense. And the first kind of stepping stone or breadcrumb along the way was to hear Jack Kruse talking about the human retina being inverted and looking inward rather than outward, and why we see our dreams at night with our eyes closed. So it kind of put me into a paradox, a difficult paradox to be in. I'm not studying biology using external ideas. I'm having to study biology by using internal ideas and the four forces of the universe: gravity, weak, strong, and electromagnetism, and really kind of hold on to the foundations of atomic physics as a way of trying to describe the biology of the unconscious part of the mind to giving the time delay system of the perceived external reality. That, and so it's like, yeah.
Well, I wanted, some of the feedback was to make a little shorter. So, as we start bringing, there's no rush. There's never a rush. At best at ease, right?
Yeah, indeed.
And, but just to keep the respect of the viewership that's providing feedback, which is very important to me, and I do. And maybe we can even finish up tonight on part 3.
Yeah.
But how do you explain? I'm leading this in because you and I have talked, and others and you have talked. How do you explain that while in different forms, different media, or different expertise, such a large group of us, relatively, seem to have come up with the same math at the very same time, definitely within a lifetime, but really in the last 3-4 years? I started 45 years ago. That's when I.
Yeah, I guess my experience was 2013, and that kind of, I've had 18 years experience as a regenerative medicine scientist. So when did it all start for me? I kind of say on the 10th of the 10th, 1983, and my mum's suicide, right? So that was in a sense, a way of storing trauma in the terms of the memory that was housed within me. And I took 31 years in order to store that.
Fight's the better
pain, right? Yeah. So, for me, it was traumatic in a release of that trauma. And why is it all happening now? What's happening now that means that this kind of stuff is operating? Well, it's cosmic. It's a perceptional shift that's happening. And if we understand where the Earth is in relation to the sun, we understand the solar system in relation to the galaxy, and then the galaxy in relation to the universe. There's
Lieutenant Dan, just like Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah. So we have been on a journey, and I think the reason why we're meeting people who are on that same path at the same time is, we're resonating, we're connecting, and we're all feeling that kind of shift that's going on. And the shift of the frequencies that are operating within the mind allows you to kind of connect to a different perception of reality, a different perception of time happening within. I posted the other day that there are 3 times and 1 dimension of space internally, and externally there's 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time. And
5, and if there's 5, there's got to be at least 8.
Oh, indeed. I'm just talking about the muon and the tau, and in terms of that beta decay system. And you think, well, yeah, that's the isotope physics operating system that's within the mind. So we have this light coming out of the atom, the neutrino, right? And there are 3 kind of layers within. You think about the Earth being the 3rd rock from the sun, and you think, well, okay, here's a passion layer to hydrogen, which is in the infrared. There's the 2nd layer is the Balmer line, and the first, the UV.
I tell you what, let's leave this as a little cliffhanger.
All right, sounds good.
In part of episode 1, Doc, I want you to drive. I want you can talk about going fishing in the beautiful waters in New Zealand, whether inland or out to sea, all the way to theology. I want you to drive this next meeting. Would you agree to do that? And we'll
right. That'd be great. Brilliant.
So, folks, this is the What If Show. I'm Stitch, and we're sponsored. Black Hole Decisions is my company, when we're sponsored by D Community and Buckethead. And I want to thank you for joining us this evening. And Doc, we'll see you in just a bit.
Thanks, Randy. See you.